Big companies are scaling back their diversity efforts, and it's making a lot of people wonder, what does this mean for the future of leadership? Is inclusive leadership under threat, or is this the push we need to rethink how we lead and innovate? In today's episode, I will be interviewing a gender equality expert, and we dive deep into this and more. And if you have questions, definitely drop them in the comments. But before we bring on my guests, let me introduce myself. My name is Shri, and I'm a social media manager who helps doctors and lawyers gain an edge online. We help your practice build a social media presence that attracts and retains patients and clients. My guest, gender equality expert and founder of the Smart Women Consulting and Afroa Beauty. Her name is Darine. I'm so excited to have her on. Thank you so much, Darine, for joining us. Now, let me ask, because it's the holidays, and guys, this episode will turn into a podcast episode, which will be uploaded tomorrow. I want to ask, what is your favorite holiday dish to eat or drink?
Oh, that's a good question. I love food so much. We could have an episode just about it. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I would say dessert. Like in French, we have la bûche, which is either ice made out of ice cream or cake, and it's good. I love that. And you can get those kind of dessert only during the holidays. So I would say that.
Oh, yes, that's like me. I only make certain dishes only during the holidays, but I am determined, guys, because I want to get my Michelin star one day.
Ooh.
I am going to start practicing on my cornbread and making Hawaiian bread, but all non-dairy. So, guys, look out for that. I should if you should be pushing me to post that type of content because I need to get practice. But ooh, we have here Robert Berry saying hello.
Hello, Rob.
And yes, he likes to eat cake. He also likes pecan pie. So let's get into this topic. And the reason why this is a really like hello Ligias, nice to see you. So this topic comes up because the reason why we're seeing a lot of companies, especially Walmart. Walmart took a stance and said, you know what, we're going to walk away from DEI and inclusive training. And other companies are actually following suit. But what many don't know is that in July, we have Microsoft who kind of went ahead and started getting rid of that department, but they didn't say it out loud. And so now we're seeing more and more corporations. Could it be because of the political climate? Could it be that things aren't what people thought? So while we get into it, I want to first ask you, Doreen, what inspired you to focus your career on fostering gender equality and building inclusive workspaces?
Like when I was in my last year of university, I was in West Africa and I was working with children. And I realized that if you wanna, so children trade, I was working on a very specific topic about children trade in West Africa. But I realized that if you want to have an impact, you need to empower the mothers. And oftentimes, children are impoverished because the mothers are impoverished. So my focus was, okay, I need to support the mothers. Then I came back to North America and I realized that, okay, I'm focusing on West Africa, but there is a need for that here too, right? When I was having conversation with women, I realized that, okay, but a lot of women struggle to either get a promotion, get into leadership roles, they are challenged to fulfill their ambitions. So I was like, listen, there is something maybe that we can do here to empower women And this is how it all started.
So you saw an opportunity because you were seeing women being impoverished and their children, and you're like, you know what, I want to help others. That's a
Yeah.
really, that's a really good story, because that's kind of like the story that a lot of people have, meaning like you saw something and you wanted to change it. Now, for you, Darine, how can leaders, in your thought, how can leaders advocate for inclusion without institutional support or when facing resistance like we're going to be seeing in some of these corporations?
Resistance will always be part of the game. And because if you look at workplaces in North America and in Western countries in general, but let's talk about North America because you are in the US and I'm based in Canada. Like in the 50s, 60s, like workplaces were built by white women, by white men for white men, because the vision of success back then was a white middle class man, and there was nothing wrong about it, except that our societies have evolved. Women entered the workplace. People from different backgrounds started to, immigrate more and more to North America, and so the workplace started to diversify. And while our societies were evolving, the workplace remained the same. And so, as of today, in late 2024, workplaces operates and are institutionalized the same way it was 50 years ago,
Mm.
60 years ago now. So there will always be barriers because institutional changes is the most difficult to change. Now, when it comes to how can leaders bring changes in their company when they face barriers, first of all, they have to have the willingness to do so. And it might sound cliche or it might be common sense, but it's not. And this is something that I see either in the private sector or in the public sector, even working with political institutions and public institutions. This is exactly the same patterns, right? And so, first of all, the leaders have to buy in. Then they have to have the willingness to be uncomfortable and do things that might be uncomfortable and that might be rejected in order to make the change happen. But it doesn't happen overnight. And I'm happy to discuss about DEI with you because I believe people, we have this assumption that, oh, okay, they are going to talk to women, they are going to talk about how good it is, whatever. But I may have a controversial thought about it that I want to share with you. And let's be a little bit the devil advocate. And I will tell you
Ooh.
why when you ask me the question.
I will ask the question, but first I want to get to the comments where Ligia is saying it's amazing to see the both of us, and Robert's just chiming in with yes, the Michelin star,
Yes,
and
you will.
Ligia saying completely agree, to support kids we start from the root of the situation. And she's also saying, which is Ligia,
Thank
wonderful
you.
mission. And good night, Lisa. Wonderful to see you as well. If you are joining in, please chime in the comments. Like, this is just us talking. We're getting to know Darine too, but at the same time, we're going to see changes coming into 2025.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we are seeing, because this is a topic that is being talked about, is DEI and inclusivity programs, and how a lot of corporations are walking away from it. I think they're just trying to change what they're doing. But Doreen, I want to ask you, are you seeing a trend, or is there something that you noticed before any of this even happened?
This trend has started during COVID, definitely. And we all know that. A lot of people were affected by the pandemic. Women were disproportionately affected by the pandemic. And when we look at the statistics and what part of the population lost their jobs in a way that is alarming. they are women as usual. When something happens, we are the front line. Even if we are not the front line, we are the ones who will pay the biggest price. And so the COVID pandemic and everything that happened out of this situation was no difference. Women paid a bigger price, and they lost their jobs, they lost their status. A lot of things happened and impacted women to the point where all the advancements that were made prior to 2020 in terms of gender equality, equity, and inclusion just went backwards and were erased just like this. So once again, it shows us, and I think it's very important for us women and for everyone and all the gentlemen out there supporting women as well, because there is many of them, and I think it's important to mention that. And it's a win-win, and it's something that we need to achieve together, men and women together. But the truth is that every time in history that something happens, we pay a bigger price. This situation in 2020 was no exception. We went backward, and what it tells us is how fragile our rights are. And being at work, or being in the constitution, or being in politics, at the economic level, whatever, when it comes to us women, it is never ever granted. And no matter how much progress we make moving forward, and we are making progress, we have to keep in mind that it is never granted. It can be wiped out like in a minute. And we have seen many recent examples in North America. So why I'm telling you that, because oftentimes I hear women, and not all women are for this woman thing, and they are like, oh yeah, I'm a leader, I'm not because I'm a woman, because I'm competent, or whatever. And I agree with that. But you have to understand that just because you are a woman of your gender, then you can be just wiped out like nothing had existed. So we need to be constantly involved and active in promoting our rights, fighting for our rights. And I'm not talking about, being a crazy feminist and going out and showing your boobs as, some people like to portray feminists. We are feminists. I'm a feminist, but you can be a feminist the smart way, right? In the work that we do, in the content that we create, in the interactions that we have with people. So we ensure that we keep our right, because again, it is never granted for us women.
As you were talking, I'm also thinking about, okay, I know I'm all for women and women rights, but I also think about the men who were during this time of COVID, were forced into retirement because they wanted to put a woman there, not because it was their time. And I want to say that there are some things that, when we look at DEI inclusivity, it's also important to understand women are important, but there are some things that we're starting to see that weren't happening. I remember when I was working a 9-to-5, certain things that men were doing, they weren't doing anymore, such as opening a door or offering to help. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, just like you were saying, things can be wiped away. It's also the same thing for men. Certain things that we used to see and are accustomed to seeing aren't happening as much anymore.
I believe, and with no offense to all our US friends here, I'm from France, and I have been living in Canada for more than 10 years now. So I have these cultural backgrounds where I have lived in different cultural environments, and I can see the differences and the nuances, right? And the thing I believe that is happening in the US, and when something happens in the US, it will ultimately happen around the world. And I believe the narrative around feminism and DEI inclusivity was so much distorted in the US that people started to do things either for the wrong reasons or without thinking about the consequences. And I'm starting with the principle that I believe people are genuine. And so when they do something, they want to do it for good. But, when you don't understand really the different facets of a topic, but you still want to act on it, it's hard to be able to analyze, what is the right steps to take and what might be the consequences. And I believe the way the narrative was distorted is that, okay, if women want more, we have to take it away from men. If women, and that's one. The second, trend that I have seen, in this distortion of the narrative is, oh, because we are empowered women, we don't need men. We hate men, putting so much pressure on men, which is not the purpose of it either. But unfortunately, like any movement, and history has shown us many, many examples, usually the extremes are the ones who are the louder and who make, the like noise that will become the norm, so much noise that it will become the norm to people who are not familiar with this topic. When actually, this has nothing to do with taking things away from men. I think it's very important to make it clear. It has nothing to do with women bashing men because they are strong and they are empowered and, they make their own money. And I'm all for it, girl. Women's empowerment, being independent, being strong, making choice for yourself, making your own money. So, you are not in a vulnerable situation, or you can get yourself out of a vulnerable situation, and you can decide for yourself. It's important, but not at the price of bashing the other half of the population, because by doing so, we are doing what was done to us for centuries, right? And so we are just like repeating history, but the other way around. And we know, we have seen that it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so all these distortions and social media noise, unfortunately, have created this narrative where, people are involved in the AI or for the wrong reasons.
I really agree, and I love this conversation. I don't want it to stop, but I do want to get to our comments. Lydia is saying, fortunately, there are many men supporting nowadays.
But
We have
let me tell you something on that. There are like many women who don't support women. It's not a woman thing. It's important to mention that because most people believe it's a woman thing. But Lydia, yes, like it's a human thing. It's not a woman thing. It's a human thing. And so you will find men that are against it, but you will find a lot of women also that are against it.
We have Kevin who says, I still do these things and try to teach my son to do the same. So we're seeing we have a lot of people in the comments who are saying, it's about all of us. It's not
Of
just
course.
one against the other.
Mm-hmm.
We have Rollis. What's going on, Rollis? And then Robert is sharing, it should be about equal opportunity and mutual respect, not divide and conquer. So Darine, what advice would you give to those who feel underrepresented or overlooked in leadership roles?
Oh my God. You know me, Sri. I could talk about it for hours.
I know, and we don't have hours.
I know. I make a masterclass about it. Um, if you feel overlooked, whoever you are, actually, man, woman, whatever your background is, first of all, you have to understand the system. I'm a very strategic person. And, like many of you, I like to put my energy and effort where I will see results. And I made the mistake, like many of you as well, of thinking that working hard, keeping my head down, will get me noticed and will get me rewards, when actually it doesn't work. We were lied to. Hard work doesn't pay off this way, but hard work and smart work do pay off. And so it's all about being strategic. Step number one, okay, I'm going to divide the process in quickly. Step number one, observe your work environment. Who are the people who are getting promoted? What are the dynamic of the power dynamics within your workplace, right? Open your camera when you are on Zoom. Some people see your face. If they don't see you, you don't exist. If you have the opportunity to go to the office, go there. Make yourself visible, okay? So first of all, understand the power dynamic within your workplace and who are the people who get promoted. What did they do that got them the promotion? Secondly, make yourself visible. Make yourself visible. Make your achievement known to the right people. So the goal here is to stay on top of people's mind. And number three, promote yourself. Promote yourself strategically. It's not about bragging. It's not about showing off. It's about being strategic in the way you position yourself for that next role. It means that in the way you behave now, in the way you communicate now, in the way you present yourself now, online, offline, should be representing yourself as the leader you were meant to be, not as you right now, but as the position that you are targeting. So you are already in your role. So when the opportunity comes, then you will be a good option, or at least, among the candidates. So that's something that you can be that can be very practical, and that you can see results. And ultimately, if you don't see any results, if you don't feel comfortable, if you see that there is reasons for which you are not being promoted, that can be due to factors that are not linked to your professional competences, then change your workplace. We are in a time in history where you have the power to change your job, to change your life, to change your workplace if the one you are in doesn't suit you and doesn't want to recognize you for who you are and for your talent. So don't be scared, to change, and don't be scared to look for an environment when you can be recognized and appreciated for who you are.
You dropped some really good gems. Now, if you didn't catch them, you can definitely catch them in the replay or when this episode turns into a podcast, because there's so much really good gems. And then we get a little bit spicy in this episode. But I do want to get to the comments. We have Christopher, who's sharing, traditionally, men have been heavily represented in construction, mechanics, and other physically demanding industries. This is part of the truth of our existence. That is true. I have seen that. And I'm also seeing women in
Yeah.
these industries. Not as much, but there is still representation of women there.
But Christopher, to your point, actually, in Canada, there is a lack of employees, right? They have, like, the country has a very difficult time recruiting people. And so they are really focusing on training people on trade. And so this is an opportunity for women, to fill the gap. So get trained in trade. If that's something you want to do, you are passionate about, because, like, there is so many opportunities for you to say is that your time is now. So industries that were male dominated for as long as it exists, now, due to the current economic context, that can be an opportunity also for you to seize opportunities.
There's as they say, there's opportunities everywhere. We have Lygia. I want to know how to say your name, because I don't want to say it wrong, but I have been saying it wrong. But Lygia is saying, agree with Darine. This is not about a competition. Some people go to the extremes, and that is when working together becomes difficult. And I believe we complement each other, but not to
Mhm.
harm others. For this,
Exactly.
we need humility and be open minded. We have Daniel from DC area. Hello, hello.
Mm.
And Ligia saying, yes, I have seen this about women against women, and we should put an effort to change that. And we have Christopher who's saying, great thought leadership here. And hello, John. So I know like this conversation is getting juicy, but I want to bring up a topic that's near and dear to your heart, which is Aphora.
Mhm.
Okay. And it's your beauty line that you just started. But I'm wondering what made you decide your own beauty line, your own skincare line?
I love this question. um, so throughout my career, the past 15 years of my career now, I have worked back and forth between North America and West Africa. And, as a woman leader myself, I know how challenging and how know the impact it can have on self-confidence when you feel that you don't look good. And I use the term you feel that you don't look good. And part of looking good and building, being confident in front of an audience or live stream, it's to have good quality, good skin, like good looking skin, radiant skin, and so on. And because I'm busy, listen, I don't have time for the 12-step routine, and I don't have time to put like so much makeup on. This is the reality. This is our reality, right, as women. And so, but I had so many skin issues, like that was really problematic. So in my 20s, very bad skin. And when I entered in my 30s, it became worse, developed hypersensitive skin, even, using medical grades, clinical grades, high-end luxury brands wouldn't help. And now I'm in my late 30s. And so I was like, okay, I have tried everything in the modern world, in the Western world. Let's go back to the roots. And since I was working a lot in African countries, I decided to go like way in the wild and meet with the mamas there to learn about their wisdom about nature and the way they use what nature has to offer them, so it could cure my own skin issues. That was one. And also the other reason, that was one really, really core motivation to starting Afro Beauty. And also another reason is when I would go to our, stores here, and I would treat myself to some high-end brands, luxury brands. I was frustrated to see that, first of all, this is not especially clean for our skin. And secondly, that when they use like rare ingredients and botanicals, is just at the bottom of the ingredient list. So basically, there is a little percentage that doesn't have a lot of effect on the skin. So I was like, listen, I have close to my heart to support all the women. And for me, that was the perfect bridge between supporting women here, by creating effective skincare solutions that are clean, eco, luxury with the experience and everything. And on the other side, that was the bridge with supporting local women in Africa, because they are the one who master this knowledge, who have this ancestral know-how. The botanicals that we use, they are harvested once a year. They understand, they respect the cycle of nature, and so on and so on. And I was like, okay, I can create a business model where I will support local communities on one side, and on the other side, I will provide an effective solution to active women, 35 plus year old, who don't have time to follow all the trends, and they want to be efficient and still be confident in their own skin. So that's why I created Afro Beauty.
So I love what you just shared. You went to the motherland and you found and sourced the products. What are the women using? Because I can imagine they don't have access to Tasha Beauty or to, La Mer or, Clinique, but they have access to what is there. And sometimes what is around you is the best. And Robert wants to know, can you help his skin glow?
Oh, Rob, you know that I can. Of course, Afro Beauty can do that.
So I have dropped the link to the website so that you can check it out. I'll drop it again because it is the holidays and you want to treat yourself. Why not try something? You know, we know Darine, we love Darine, or you could hire her for her consulting. But, before we go to Instagram, which I'm inviting all of you to come and join us. So let us know, like, how can we connect with you?
On LinkedIn, I haven't been very active lately on LinkedIn, but I always check my DM though, and I will be soon back on the platform actively, so you will see more of me. And I miss going live. I miss interacting with all of you, and I'm super happy. Thank you, Sri, for the opportunity today. So send me a DM on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Any questions, anything about the content that I post, what I do, I'm happy to just have those genuine conversation with you all.
I hope you didn't hear me drop my phone, but definitely connect with Doreen. I just dropped her links in the comments. Hello, hello, Enrique. So, this is what we're going to do. This episode right here will be turned into a podcast episode on Spotify and Apple. You can also catch the replay here on LinkedIn. But if you're like me, who gets a little annoyed with the app or the website, you can go to YouTube and you'll definitely catch that there, this replay there. So until my next episode, which is next week with another wonderful guest. And I want to say hi to Malik, and I want to say hi. He's tuning in from Pakistan. Thank you, everybody who's joining in on the live or catching the replay or the replay on the podcast. We truly appreciate you. And until the next time, have a wonderful evening or morning, wherever you're located. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.